When I was 13 years old, my parents decided to move. My dad got a job in another province, far away from home, where I grew up my whole life, and we moved from the big city to this little small town in like a valley. It's a beautiful spot. It's in a valley surrounded by mountains, and my dad went to go and work on the mines there. There's a very small population, probably about 5,000 people. There's no traffic lights. It's too small. They didn't have traffic lights. Didn't need that. Just one big, we call it a four-way stop. Who knows what a four-way stop is? Yeah. If it was Australia, there'd be one big roundabout in the middle of town. But there was one big four-way stop. That was it. And that was the center of town. There was a few shops around it, and that was it. And when we moved there, I was kind of angry with my dad. I didn't want to move to this town. I didn't want to live there. We came from the big city where a lot of things happened, and now we're in this small town, and it took me a while. But eventually, we adjusted, and eventually I fell in love with the place, and we loved it down there. And it was different, but it was the kind of place where life was predictable. You knew what life was going to be like every day. And it was also it was nice, and it was safe, and it was beautiful, and there was good things happening. But like the highlight of your time there would be the times when another town or city would come and play rugby against our town. Then that would be the big thing for our town. Then everyone would go to the rugby field on a Saturday, and there'd be barbecues around, and there'd be food, and it'd be a festival, and we'd watch rugby. And that was like the highlight. That's the most fun we had in that town. That was it. But other than that, every day was kind of predictable, and just you knew what was coming. And it was the kind of time that if you were a teenager, it's the kind of type of town you dream of leaving one day. I'm going to get out of this town and make it in the big world. You know the movies? Like this small town, and you need to break out so you can spread your wings. It was that kind of town. But then one day, when I was in high school, I was second year in high school, these students came to our school. And they are students, they had the opportunity, they call it doing 1 year for Jesus. They were 1 year for Jesus students. So this university, they had the option, if students came to study there, then they could sort of suspend their studies for 1 year, and then they go travel the country for 1 year. They go to schools, and it's, to spread the message of Jesus. It's to, love other kids in high school and be there for them, encourage them, and just be a positive influence in their lives. So these kids came to our school, these students, and the first Monday morning they were in our what do you call those gatherings, when assembly. They were in our assembly, and they did a bit of a skit on the stage and a performance, and it was funny, and we laughed. But they were so high, energetic, loving kind of people. They were so full of life and full of energy, and we just loved them. And they spent time with us for 2 days. And they were with us in the classroom. They'd sit next to us, and when we had our I remember the Monday afternoon I had tennis practice. They came to us on the bus to the tennis practice, and they played tennis with us, and they made us laugh, and they would sit with each and every one of us and find out what was going on in our lives and encourage us and pray with us. And they just had such a huge effect on us. And we were just so mesmerized with these people. They were so different to all of us, And when they left, it was the saddest. You would think these people lived in the town forever, and we lost our dearest people, but they were only there for 2 days because we all wanted to be around them. We just wanted to be with them. They were just so full of life. And actually, that was the day when I realized life doesn't have to be predictable. Life can be exciting. You don't have to follow some kind of pattern. You can go and live, and life can be fulfilling. It can be exciting. It can be adventurous. It can be full of joy and full of laughter. And when these guys left, we were in tears because we wanted to be with them all the time. We wanted to be them. We wanted to have their lives, and they left. And I remember thinking, I wish, that was the first time ever that I had this thought, I wish I had someone else's life. Have you ever had this thought? You see someone else's life and you go, I wish I had their life. Because compared to their life, your life looks a bit colorless, boring, beige, And you go, I wish I had their life. They have way more texture and color and beauty in their life than in mine. And so I remember going home and thinking, I wish I had their life. Now, I didn't think it was because they were Christians. I knew Christians. Christians had the opposite effect on me. Christians sucked the color out of my life. They drew energy out of my life. For me, Christianity was all about conforming and being quiet and sitting still and making sure you do. So that was the opposite. So I was definitely sure that it was not because they were Christians. That was not the reason. So I concluded what made them different was the fact that they went to university. That's it. And so a few years later, my parents moved again. We moved a lot. I do wonder if I'm a gypsy sometimes, because we traveled quite a lot. So we moved back to the big city, went back to school, and I was actually trying to avoid class, but then by some accident I got onto a bus that went to university for the open day. I wasn't supposed to be on that bus. So I went to university with my friend, not supposed to be on this bus, but go to this university. And on this university campus, I've never been to a university before. I saw more of those people. Those energetic, full of life, full of color, full of beauty, energetic people. And their energy, the life they had was contagious. It just spread. Everyone was so happy. And I thought, that's where those kids, those students that came to school when I was in high school, that's where they came from. They came from here. This is the place. And I remember going home and thinking, whatever happens, I have to go to university. That is the way to access this life that I wish I could have. This beautiful life that's full of energy, full of adventure, and really will make me happy and satisfy me. And I knew I had to go. It would be the difference between a boring, beige, colorless life and this adventure, this beautiful, exciting life. And I remember saying to my mom, no matter what, I've got to find a way to go to university. I didn't really care about the studying part. I just wanted to be in that environment because I wanted to, whatever they had, I wanted to catch it. And by some miracle, because I didn't have the grades and I didn't have the money to go to university, I got like this golden ticket. I got this opportunity to go to university and to go study. And I jumped at it. I took it and I went to university and I studied there. And 4 years later, they gave me a little piece of paper, said I was an engineer. And I was living the dream. It was happening. My dream life, this exciting life was happening. I got discounts wherever I went. I had a student card. You show that student card, you don't pay as much as everyone else. The dream was starting to unfold, And I got this piece of paper that was like, it said engineer on it. It was like my badge of honor, like my superhero badge. When I had that thing, I could feel my chest pushing out, and I wanted to stay. When someone asked me, I couldn't wait for that question. What do you do for a living? I'm an engineer. I felt proud to say that, And the benefits of that life started happening, and initially it was really good. And we enjoyed this. And people started treating me differently with a bit more respect. Even my own family, they treated me differently, a bit more respect. And it was happening. That life was starting to unfold, this dream life, this beautiful life that I imagined. But then after a few years, things started to change. Things started fading. And after a few years, I couldn't really deny it, but I had to admit that I actually hated being an engineer. I didn't like it. And initially I thought, well, maybe it's the companies I'm working for. So if I go from this company to the next one, then it's the company. I'll go to that company, it'll be better. So I went from company to company to company, but eventually I couldn't deny it. And initially the money was strong enough motivation to keep me going, but eventually it got to a point where I just had to get out. I just had to get out. And I couldn't do that anymore. And I discovered this thought I had that going to university and being among those people will give me this life. It didn't work out. 15 years later, and I still felt the same way I did, like I always did. Have you ever wished you could have someone else's life? Now, there in the scriptures, in Matthew chapter 10, verses 39, Jesus makes a profound statement. And he says to his disciples, he says, whoever finds his life will lose it. And whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. Whoever finds his life will lose it. And whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. Whoever finds his life will lose it. It's like there's this voice inside of us that's lying to us. There's this voice inside of us that tells us life is out there, not in here. Life is always out there. Life is in, with, at, someone or something or some circumstance out there. So we have to go find life. It's in someone, something, or some circumstance out there. So we have to go find our lives. But Jesus says whoever finds their life will lose it. Essentially what Jesus is saying, there is no life out there. There is no life out there. And you already know this. You know this for a fact already. There was a time where you wished and you prayed and you hoped for the things you have right now. There was a time in the past where you looked in the future and you said, if only I had that career, or if I was married, or if I had this, or if I had that, if I can have that thing, then I will find that life that'll satisfy me. And then you found that thing, you have it now, and you know your life experience is no different from when you didn't have it. It didn't have the life. So you know this for a fact. For 13 years, Karina and I couldn't have children. And we got to a stage where we got obsessed with it, that we didn't have children. And if I'm really honest, both Karina and I would definitely affirm that we were thinking that once if we could have kids, then we would have life. The life is in having kids. And so once we have them, we will have that beautiful, energetic, fulfilling life. And then we got the kids. We ain't got that life. Only other thing is we ain't got no sleep, we ain't got no peace either. So don't get me wrong, I love my kids. I wouldn't give them up, I wouldn't trade them for anything in the world. I'm not saying there's no benefit in the kid. There is, it's great. But in many ways, we are still having the same life experience that we had before we had children. You know this is true. Life is not out there. And Jesus says whoever finds their life will lose it. It's like Jesus is saying, looking for life out there is trying to get the fast lane in peak hour traffic. Have you ever been in peak hour traffic and you're sitting still in the middle lane? And then the right-hand lane, the cars are going, and you go, I've got to get into, that's where the life is. I've got to get in that lane, right? And so you put your, and you get into the right lane, and what happens? The right lane stops. And then the lane you were in, the left-hand lane, they start going. And then you put your indicator to get in, but they don't give you space to get back in. And you can see the car, the blue car that was 20 cars behind you. There he goes with an arrogant smile on his face. He goes past you like that. And then eventually you get a gap to get back into the old lane you were in. And what happens? It stops dead. And then the right-hand lane starts going again. Whoever finds their life loses it. Whenever you step into the lane where you think life is, it's already moved on. It's already eluded you. So you think if I move to another country, life will be there. And then you get there, and for a while you live there, and you go, well, maybe life is in another country. You move to that country. And then you get there, and it's got out of the lane again. You go, oh, maybe life is back in the country where I came from originally. You get back there. And it's always not in the place where you are. Life is always out there. It's never in here. My first job, when I finished high school, I was a paramedic. I worked for an ambulance company. But one of my best friends, he worked for a security company. So we'd go and visit him while he was working. It looked like he had so much fun. Looked like he got paid more than I did. He didn't work as many hours as I did. And then he didn't have to work on weekends like we did, you know. So it was, I just thought, well, that's where the life is and what he's doing. And he said he could get me a job. So I left the ambulance company and started working for the security company. And then my friends who were still in the ambulance company, they'd come and visit to see how I was doing. And then I'd look at them when they leave, and they're so excited. And they get to leave the building. I have to be stuck in this building the whole day. And I go, no, the life is there. So after a few months, I went back to the ambulance company. I changed job 4 times between 2 companies. And the life was always out there. It eluded me. Whoever finds their life will lose it. Jesus is saying this strategy of finding life out there loses life. You will lose. Because you're using up precious life hours and months and years to chase something that's out there that's not out there. So a few years later, I hated my career. But I was a church-going man, so I sat in church every Sunday. And then I started seeing these guys up on stage with like really cool microphones and lights and big screens. And they were really energetic, and they were talking, and people were laughing, and it was exciting. And I thought, wait a minute. These guys, they have the life. They're like those students that came to high school when I was a kid. I made a mistake. It's not in going into university. That's not where life is. It's going into ministry. That's where life is. I mean, surely. This was like chasing life 2.0 in full swing. I've got to go ministry. Now, many of you are part of this church and you're going, is this how this guy got to be our pastor? Let me just qualify that quickly by saying, no, God did actually have something to say. There were signs, there were some calling, there was some movement. I was aware of that. But if I'm really honest, at a motivational level, entering ministry initially, and I shouldn't say this out loud, wasn't to honor God. Entering ministry initially was for me because I thought that's where I will find life. That's where I'll be like the guy up on stage with the cool microphone. And when I'm able to do what they did, what I saw, that then I will experience that life. And then 7 years later, I sat in a counselor's office with burnout, getting counseling. And I couldn't stomach the thought of working in the church anymore. And that was okay. That was fine. But one thing I couldn't shake, one thought I couldn't get rid of is, I spent the last 10 years of my life chasing this. I thought I would get life through ministry. And I put 3 years, I went to Bible college, 3 years, I did a degree in that, and I spent 7 years in the church, and now it's all gone, it's on lost, I don't have any life, and I've lost 10 years of my life. Plus, if we add the 15 years before that, where I thought if I go to university and become an engineer, it's 25 years of my life lost, chasing life out there. That was too much to bear. What do I do now? What do I do now? 25 years of my life lost. He who finds his life loses life. Jesus says, when you have this strategy where you're also always chasing life out there, you are burning up precious life that you have with you already. You're losing it. You're losing life. The question then is, how much life have you lost? How much life have you got left? And are you going to keep on going with the strategy where life is always out there? It's always in the fast lane. And as soon as you get in the fast lane, it's gone to this lane. How many lessons do we need to learn? How much more life do we need to lose? Because these people like me who live this way, where we think life is always out there, lose life. We lose precious life. So we wish for different lives because we want this life. So Jesus says, hang on, don't go this way. He who tries to find his life, he who always tries to get life at someone or something or some circumstance out there, you're going to lose. You're going to pay a heavy price. You're going to lose your life. You're going to lose your life. But whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. So Jesus says, if you take the life you have and you lose it, you sacrifice it, then you find yourself in the position where the true life actually emerges within your life. So if you take your life that you have right now, your focus, your time, your energy, your talent, your skill, your money, your resources, everything, and you decide to lose it, You decide to sacrifice it. Meaning you're not going to use those things to chase life out there. You're going to lose it. You're going to sacrifice it. You're going to use your time, your energy, your money, your focus, your talent in order to serve God and honor God. Then you find yourself in fertile ground, fertile soil. The kind of soil where true life emerges and grows. So that's Jesus' advice. Essentially what he's saying, self-sacrifice is the soil from which true life emerges and grows. That's how we find life. Those who lose their life for my sake will find life. Have you ever met these people who can't shut up about Jesus? They can't stop talking about him. They're all about Jesus. You know, if you meet them, you're trying to get them to talk about something else, like about the weather or the footy, or the economy, but they always find a way to bring it back to Jesus. It's always talking about Jesus. They just want to talk about Jesus all the time. And it gets annoying if you don't want to talk about Jesus all the time. A friend of mine who's a pastor, he talks about his colleague who's also a pastor. It was his birthday, and his kids gave a speech on their dad's birthday, and they were saying about their dad. He says, whenever we find him, he's talking about Jesus. He can't shut up about Jesus. And we're a bit nervous when he meets new people because we'll walk past and he just met the people and it's like 30 seconds in, they're talking about Jesus. He's always talking about Jesus. You know someone like that? They're always talking about it. Their focus, their intention, their skill, their talent, their resources, everything is geared towards Jesus, serving God, following God, honoring God. And in fact, this friend of mine, he says, there's this other guy who's another guy like this who can't shut up about Jesus. And he was living in Zimbabwe. His name is Boet Pretorius. It's a good South African name, isn't it? Boet Pretorius. Living in in Zimbabwe on a farm. And this was during the time when they were reclaiming the farmland and, what's that word? The resettlement of land or whatever that is. And so he owned his own farm. He was farming there for years, for decades. And then the day came when they saw the vehicles pulling up the farmland, and he knew what was coming. And so they came in and they stopped, and there was soldiers with rifles and everything, and they knocked on the door and they said, right, we're taking your farm. You've got to go. And he's like typical fashion, because he's like that. He goes, okay, no, that's fine. You guys can take the farm. But before you go, do you all just want to come into my barn and we'll just watch the Jesus movie quickly? They say, we're not here for movies. You got to go. And they arrested him, and he went to jail. And he went to jail, but he can't shut up about Jesus. He's always talking about Jesus. He became the most popular guy in prison. He was helping people, leading people to Christ. Everyone went to him to help. He was like this light to everyone. And because of such good behavior and because everyone liked him, he got out of jail a lot earlier than he was supposed to. And he was out of jail. And then he went back to his farm that wasn't his farm anymore. And he met the black farm owner there, and he said, they had coffee. He said to the guy, he said, do you know how to farm? And the new owner said, no, I don't. He says, well, I do. Let me farm this land for you. Let me teach you how to farm. And then you can make this land a successful harvest for yourself. It can benefit you. And they became friends. And he led this guy to Jesus. And this farm flourished. And that kind of trickled something in his mind, and eventually he started this company called Farming God's Way, and he goes throughout Africa and he finds people who do not know how to farm, and he teaches them how to farm God's way. And he's living the life. He's living the life. And he sacrificed and lost everything to find that life. His mind, his focus, his intention, his resources, no matter what situation he is in, goes towards honoring God, following Jesus. Even if he's in prison. Does that sound like someone else in the scriptures? Self-sacrifice is the soil from which true life grows. See, maybe you're a follower of Jesus, but you don't experience the life. You don't. Your life is pretty much the same as it was before you believed in Jesus. Or your life is pretty much the same as someone who doesn't believe in Jesus. You're still chasing life out there and other things too, just like everyone else. And you don't have this life. Is it possible that you haven't sacrificed your life? Is it possible that you haven't lost your life? Is it possible that you only gave God bits of your life? Sunday mornings, have that. I don't have to do anything on a Sunday morning anyway. And maybe during the week, every now and then, I'll lose that bit of life. God can have that. But what Jesus is saying is you've got to lose your life. This is an all or nothing deal. Some people are trying to get the life God has to offer while still holding on to their own life. Trying to keep both. And it doesn't work like that. Jesus says, no, all or nothing deal. You have to lose your life. You have to sacrifice your life. You have to give Him your life. And then you find life. Not bits of it. Life, true life, is accessed through sacrifice. What has Jesus cost you? What have you lost because of Jesus? If you can't point to something that it's cost you, I guarantee you can't point to life. It's an all or nothing deal. If you're giving God bits, if you're giving bits of your life, but you actually still want to hold on to the rest of your life because you want to use all your resources, all your talents to still chase life that's out there, you'll never find that life. What does it cost you? The thing is, Jesus says, he who loses his life on account of me. So don't be just a martyr and just make your life miserable. It's on account of me. On account of me. It's because of some kind of relationship you have with him. Some kind of heart thing. You do it because of him, because of how you feel about him. It's on account of me. So essentially, you can't buy life with your life. You can't buy true life with your life. It'll cost you your life, but you can't buy it with your life. A lot of people want to buy it with their lives. See, this is about motivation. Why do you sacrifice? Why do you lose things? What is the motivation? For a lot of people, the motivation is, well, I guess I have to because he's God, and if I don't do it, I don't want to go to hell. So it's kind of, I'm painted into a corner here, you know. So why do you go to church? Why do you give up your resources? Why do you read? Why do you do all these things? Because I guess I have to. That's never going to work. You're never going to find true life because that is through manipulation and coercion. A lot of people see it in a business sense. I'll buy that life. It makes good business sense. This is an investment. If I sacrifice here, it's like investment, and in the long run, it'll pay off. This is not a business deal. You can't pay for this life. You can't buy true life. It's on account of him. It's on account of some kind of feelings you have towards him. Some kind of heart response to him. It comes from a place of love. It comes from a motivation of gratitude. It comes from a motivation of worship. When you have a heart response of love, gratitude, and worship towards God, then you are willing to lose your life on his account. Now, many of you might go, yeah, but you know what? I don't have that heart thing. I don't have that response. I wish I did. But I don't feel anything. For me, worshiping God is more a head thing. I believe Jesus was real. I believe he is the Son of God. I believe God sent his Son to come down to earth in human skin, to live on our behalf a perfect life, to die on the cross, forgive our sins, and we are reconnected back to God. We are children of God. And you may actually believe all those things, but it doesn't affect the heart. Your relationship with God is an intellectual thing. I know, I'm talking from experience. I don't feel, what do I do if I don't have the emotional response, the heart response, the love, the gratitude? I do have love, and I do have gratitude, and I do have worship, but it's up here. It's not from here. What do I do if I don't have that? And to you, maybe your relationship with God can look like an arranged marriage. You get these other people who connect to God, but they fall in love passionately with God. It's like love at first sight. They see him, and there's emotion, and there's sparks, and there's chemistry, and they found their soulmate, and Jesus is their soulmate. And it's a lot of emotion, and they love God, and they follow Him. And then you get people like me that go, my relationship with God feels more like an arranged marriage. There was no love at first sight. There was no passion. There was no chemistry. It felt more like a lot of meetings where people had conversations and convincing one another that the relationship is a good idea. There's compatibility, there's good credentials. It'll work out well. It's a good decision. And so there's no heart response. And how do you sacrifice, lose your life on account of Him if you don't actually feel something on the inside? Have you ever noticed your opinion about someone can change if you just spend time with them? When I was my third year, last year in high school, there was this guy, and I was new in the school, and within the first week, how I met this guy is we had our, the training thing? ELWA. What's ELWA in English? What's that? No. Where you go? Physical education. PE. There we go. Help myself. We had PE, physical education, and we all went down to get changed to meet the teacher out on the rugby field. And while we were changing, two guys started fighting. And this one guy, I was told by everyone, this one guy's a bad guy and the other guy's a good guy. And this bad guy, and they were fighting. And I just didn't like this guy from the beginning. It just rubbed me the wrong way. And then the following year, we started school again. And then this bad guy that I met I didn't meet, I just saw him. I never spoke to him. He started hanging out with my friend. I had a best friend. He started hanging out with him. I didn't like that. Because he's a bad guy, what's he doing here? Why does my friend keep on hanging out with him? We're friends, But eventually, so this guy was always with us. So I was kind of forced to be hanging out with him all the time. And then I got to know him. And he became one of my best friends ever. Completely changed how I saw him. He wasn't the bad guy. One of the most loving, caring, beautiful human beings you can meet. And I found that out by spending time with him. Maybe you need to spend time with God. There's no heart response. Maybe you need to start dating God. Having some quiet time with God. Sharing what's going on in your life with Him. Spending time. Because I'm absolutely convinced if you spend enough time with God, you'll fall in love with Him. Because you'll realize He's actually the one going down on one knee, asking you to give your life to Him for all eternity. If you would be His for all eternity. Spend time with Him. Because He will change how you feel about Him if you just spend time with Him. And as you spend time with Him, over time you will learn that in your heart, your faith relationship with God shifts from being up here to being in here. There's a love response from the heart. There's a gratitude response from the heart. There's a worship response from the heart. And when He then looks at you and say, will you give me your life? You say, absolutely, I'm yours. Then it's much easier to lose your life, to sacrifice your life for Him. And that's the thing, when you're in love with someone, you freely sacrifice on account of them. Any Friends fan in here? Friends, the sitcom. The episode, Joey doesn't share food. Joey doesn't share food. Yeah, I'm a bit like Joey. I don't share food, We have this thing on Sunday evenings, like our final thing on a Sunday evening before we take the kids home, get them in the bath, get them to bed, get ready for the week that's coming, is we get in the car and then we go through the drive-thru and we get some ice cream, some soft-serve ice cream, and we just take a scenic drive, sometimes through the city, just anywhere, through Kings Park or whatever, and then on our way back home. That's sort of the last fun thing we do for the weekend. But what I've noticed is there's a thing that happens every now and then that I'm driving and I've got my ice cream, and Faith, she consumes ice cream at a rate that I have not seen before. And it's like, it's aggressive ice cream eating from the back. I just hear teeth and screaming and noises. I don't look back there. I don't need to know. But then, I'm not even a third through finishing my ice cream. Then I'll hear, Dad? I'll go, what? She goes, can I have your ice cream? And then the Joey doesn't share food part of me goes, no. And anyone else Karina listening? Anyone else, I'd probably go, no. No. Daddy doesn't share food. But I give it to her on account of her, on account of my love, this burning love inside my heart for her. I gladly give it to her. I'm glad to give that ice cream to her on account of that love for her. So maybe you need to spend time with God. Maybe you need to have a look at the cross and realize that what He's asking you to do, He hasn't done. It's not that He hasn't done it Himself. That on the cross, if you pay attention, it might dawn on you that He actually lost His life. He gave His life on your account. He's asking you to do for Him what He already did for you. And that is the only way to find true life. And that's the only way you'll share your food. That's the only way you'll lose your life. That's the only way you'll sacrifice your resources, your talent, your focus, your energy, and the whole posture of life to worship Him, to follow Him, and to honor Him. You can't buy true life. It comes when we lose our life. So maybe we'll close with a bit of praying. How about you bow your heads? And we'll close in prayer. Maybe you've never drawn a line in the sand. Maybe you've never given your life to God. Maybe you've just sort of been together all the time, but you've never actually made the commitment. You've never actually said, God, I give you my life. Then I want to give you an opportunity now to have an internal conversation between you and God. God is here. His Spirit is here. He knows what you're thinking. He knows what you're feeling. And you can have a moment of prayer where you say, God, in this moment, I've been walking with you. We've been going to certain things throughout this world. We've been together, but I've never actually committed and made my life yours. So in this moment, I give my life to you. All my time, all my resources, all my focus, all my talent, I'm going to reshape and posture to honoring and serving and worshiping you. Make that commitment today. To give everything, your whole life, away to Him. Lose your life in this moment. And maybe you're not there this morning. Maybe you're not ready to make that kind of commitment. Well, then start dating God. Start spending time with Him. Find people who are obsessed with Him and who love you. Because that's the best way to fall in love with Him. Place yourself in the circles that He moves in. And you may be surprised. You may just fall in love with Him. So make a commitment now to start dating God. Start arranging date nights or date days or date moments between you and God. But maybe you're in a different space. Maybe you gave your life to Him a long time ago. And you gave all of your life to Him, your whole life to Him a long time ago. But slowly as time went on, without realizing it, you were taking little bits of your life back at a time. Taking more back, taking more back, taking more back. And you possess a whole lot more of your life now. And you're still living as if He is not the one who owns your life. Maybe it's time to renew your vows. The good news is He is never unfaithful. He will never take back His life, even if you haven't been faithful. So you can once again receive His forgiveness and recommit to be devoted to Him every day. And give your life back to Him again. Sacrificing your focus, your time, your energy, your talent, your money, your love, everything to honor and serve Him once again. So maybe just you and Him have a conversation right now where you renew your vows and you recommit to losing your life and giving it to Him. And finally, devotion is practical. Commitment is practical. Choose one area in your life to focus on. Take a baby step. One area in your life where you're going to give it to Him. And He's in charge of it. If you can't give all of it in one go. What is one area in your life that you are in complete control of that you wish to lose and give towards serving and honoring God? Is it through your finances? Is it through your time? What you do during the day, how you spend your time? What is it that you can choose to devote to Him again? What time, money, focus, whatever can you lose by orientating it towards God and serving and honoring Him? Lord, there's not much that I need to say. So many conversations are being had in this moment, and you are having conversations with your children. I pray that your Spirit would be alive in them, that you would empower them and give them clarity about what it looks like to lose their life for your sake in order to find their life. Would you invade every aspect of their life, whether it be their time, their focus, their talent, their resources, and can you illuminate to them what it looks like to serve you and to have you at the center of their lives? Lord, I pray that through your Holy Spirit, they may discover the miracle of receiving true, eternal, miraculous life when they choose to trust you and give their lives to you. Pray that in the most powerful name that ever existed and will ever exist, Jesus Christ. Amen.